So what we did is, how many people can connect to this like cadence calls, right? So if you have a CSMs on the account, they will have bi-weekly cadence calls. Out of 6, probably 3 customers shows up, 3 gets cancelled, or the CSM cancels, or they join in and probably not the right person joins, maybe a developer, and starts complaining about support cases. So how many of such long list of engagements that we have in the high touch model, which are not generally outcome driven or high value, right? So what we did is we went back, we had about 24 of such engagements that CSMs used to do. We cut it down to a set of specific 6 to 8 engagements, which had this track, right? Where you can actually define an engagement, you can align your teams, deliver the engagement, and you can plan for the next engagement. These are almost productized versus just having conversations with the customer without moving the needle, right? So that helped us, the CSM trained team, to be much more focused, right? Build expertise, have clear commitment from the customers so that they are agreeing. So when I talk about the right customer, it has to be also the customers who are willing to get engaged and willing to get better. And we saw a huge value when we came out with this engagement and working with a customer who are actually partnering with us to make progress, right? Second, I think it helped us align well with sales. There are certain customers the sales wants to focus on and specific engagements they want to run. We aligned well and we put our focus or the resources there versus putting CSMs on every account. Just to be clear, we are not talking about all accounts. There are still a set of accounts we are on digital scaled model. This is specifically the approach that we changed on the named CSM model size, right? Then the last point is the skill refinement. There are certain CSMs who really wanted to specialize on things like value realization. They wanted to do more value realization, value conversations. That's what their strength. Now, if you have somebody expert in that, you can make sure that you are putting them in as many value realization kind of engagements across the customer base. You couldn't do that in the past because people are stuck with specific set of accounts. Now you had flexibility of deploying experts within CS teams on specific engagements. Scaling, I think we could scale it much faster and better by having a one standardized list of engagements that we deliver within this high-touch approach. We use Slack to automate a lot of workflows, especially reactive engagements, and then prioritization using insights. And I'll talk a little bit about how did we start looking at proactive engagements using insights. And then, of course, we had the digital offerings to complement it. That didn't go away. Customers still have the access to all of the digital ecosystem that we have, but this is on top of that. We delivered specific, human engagements, CSM-focused engagements, right? Now comes right customers, right? We had to go back and see. So we had a lot of long list of customers where we had assigned CSMs. How do we start dividing them into certain cohorts where we actually deploy this engagement side of model, right? So we realized initially probably 50 to 55% of our customers were all named. So we cut it down to much smaller, probably like 10% customers, like really high value customers. We still continued the name CSM model. But the rest, 40, which were assigned, we went into this engagement model, which right now is running, and we have run it for almost 2 quarters now, and we're starting to see the data around it, right? And then, of course, we have the long tail customers where we have the digital scaled model that we have established for about a year now. So that helped us define like where and what motion we could run, but each of them could benefit from the motion. So if a small customer, but we see a large potential, we can run an engagement for them. We have the potential to do that. Or if it's a strategic customer, and we don't see the same level of growth potential with them, or they are starting to attrit, they could move tiers as well. We could move a premier customer to strategic and strategic to premier as well. So that provided us the flexibility while managing to a headcount, right? I think a lot of us have situations where the headcount is frozen, so you have to maximize that headcount using this model, right? And then right time, right? Which is reactive, right? The customer wants certain engagement, they want to do an architecture review with them, or they want to do a training plan review, that's reactive. Or your sales team wants customer to do particular engagements, that's reactive. But then leaders like us, we had access to the data of customers' adoption data, customers' health data, and all other kind of insights through which we kind of decide proactive engagement. So I see there is X amount of bandwidth available with my team. I think that these are the 15 customers where the adoption is low, and I will create an engagement for the CSM to proactively connect with the customer because I see a risk going forward, right? So it's a combination of reactive and proactive. It's not, when people think about this model, people think it's reactive. Like when customer needs you, you go and engage with them. That's part of the story. What we are seeing actually, about 30% engagements are reactive and about 70% is proactive. But I'm still able to manage using the same team that I had, but these engagements are really outcome driven. There is really an output coming out of it versus just having a CSM on the account just because you're in a named model, right? So that's right time. And then finally managing to a P&L. I think this is probably the newest. We're starting to think about how to productize the CS motion and starting to see where actually we can get customers to pay. And what we realize, some of our largest customers are actually willing to pay if you productize the service right way, right? So some examples that I'm given here is like they're willing to pay for a role like technical account managers, right? Who work with support, who provide them architectural guidance and stuff like that. They're ready to pay for premier support plans if your product is mission critical and you think the SLAs are significantly reduced for a premier support plans, or you have advanced monitoring kind of features, customers are willing to pay. Implementation architects. And what this does is, this starts generating revenue for CS. So CS predominantly being a cost function, now you start becoming a profit center function and you have your P&L. And at some point of time, it probably can fund itself, right? This is very new when I talk to a lot of my peers in the industry, but this is where a lot of the large organizations are starting to go to generate their own P&L for customer success so that they have almost the same level of seating as in sales, right? Because they are a revenue generating function right now. So that's kind of helps define the statement that I mentioned, right? High level engagements, right customers, right time, managing to a P&L. In summary, what I can tell is this is our observation, right? What we saw. The high touch model that we had, it scaled us till we reached almost 1.75 billion. It doesn't scale anymore because we just need as many people as the customer base grows, and that's not sustainable. And customers constantly need much more support from CS if your platform is complex, right? So that didn't work for us. What we realize is the CS programs would be, going forward, the high touch CS programs would be intentional, right? And high value and engaged rather than like bunch of cadence calls thrown in. And the third point is what I was mentioning is where the industry probably is going in next 5 years is managing to a P&L. I think CS leaders will be asked to start creating revenue generating plays out of the team they manage. So that's where I think we're trying to experiment.